Edward writes into beyond at ign.com, just like you can, to be part of our little show, and says, so I recently purchased a PS Vita Slim right before E3. I was very interested in what games the handheld system had to offer, and so far, with all my PlayStation Plus free games I've downloaded, I love what I'm experiencing. But after E3, I'm not so sure about my purchase anymore, and I'm thinking about returning the Vita. It doesn't seem like Sony or any game studios are really interested in investing in the system. Now, I'm not one of those people who only wants games like Uncharted and Killzone. I like indies, and am exploring a variety of different genres, along with PS2 and PS1 classics I've never played. But what's the point of having a $200 system to play games you can purchase on other consoles, which work better or remotely on your PS4? I love my Vita, but just not sure it has a strong future.
You don't love the Vita if you want to.
Oh,
I'm
shots
calling
fired.
you out.
Simo dropping the truth over here.
You don't love Vita. Don't tell Vita you love it. I don't believe you. There's a lot of good games coming.
Yeah.
But this is an interesting point that we brought up with Shuhei, right? Is that from the outsider perspective, you watch that E3 press conference, Vita gets like 2 minutes, right, where they're like, other stuff's coming too. All right, back to PS4 and Powers.
Yeah, Powers, that was great.
Yeah.
I loved that whole thing.
And I think Shuhei admitted on our show, right, that they thought they were preaching to the core, which they are. Obviously, people like us know there's a lot of Vita games. When you go to the PlayStation booth, there were a ton of Vita games there. However, to the general audience who only watches that and then maybe bounces out and doesn't read every preview we put up, it looks a little bit more sparse.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like, this is the year to show off that PS4 is like coming in strong, and it would have went from a hour and 45-minute press conference to 2 hours or more if they tried to squeeze in some Vita stuff. So I mean, it's a balancing act, and the thing about the Vita is like all of the big stuff is more from that indie side anyway, and that's not something you would like highly feature at a major press conference like that. So plus, I think the remote play capacity is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I've been using it a ton.
Yeah, I use it. I use it a lot with Infamous, especially, and I thought it worked really well. But I was thinking about this a little bit because we wanted very selfishly for Vita to be given a better spotlight, 15, 20, 30 minutes. I mean, that would have been awesome, right?
Yeah.
Show some new games.
Here's that Infamous game.
But the PSP had a similar trajectory when I think about E3's past. Not so much early in its life necessarily, but midway and late in its life. 2006, 2007, 2008, they weren't spending incredible amounts of time on PSP, but it didn't stop the unit from selling. It sold over 80 million units, which Vita will never do, but also it didn't stop the games from coming. And I wonder if Shuhei had a point. I think that when we talked to him at E3, though, it was somewhat, and I could have misjudged this, but maybe an admission on his point or just bringing it up that maybe they made a mistake, that like maybe we really needed to talk more about Vita, not because we're not preaching to the choir, but just to let people know that we care and we know, because the games are coming. Freedom Wars that's a huge game. That might be, when all's said and done with God Eater 2 and Tukaiden and all these other games that sold really, really, really well. Persona. Yeah. This might be one of those games that sells an incredible amount of units, and this might be the thing that revives in Japan. And if it revives in Japan, it's already coming here. I played it. It's very good.
We don't know when it come here, do we?
It's coming later this year.
Okay.
I'm also not convinced that they don't have bigger plans for the rest of the year for Vita, because if you think about it, PlayStation TV is coming, this fall, and at least with the Japanese version, like, it is not that compelling. The UI just doesn't make sense for TVs. Like, the UI for Vita itself is actually kind of dated. I feel like there's like
bubbles?
Yeah, the bubbles not so great. So I feel like there's probably a big overhaul coming for both platforms in anticipation of the PlayStation TV release. So I feel like, obviously this is based on just pure speculation.
Sure.
So I don't.
What would be exciting for me, right, is especially as they start pitching it more and more as an add-on to the PlayStation 4, is if the UI went and replicated what the PS4 does, which is a clean, good-looking system. I still want my games to be all under one tab, so they're not spread out in one giant line, but I like it better than the bubbles.
But even
no bubbles.
Changes or not, the PlayStation TV is going to be a big part of their fall narrative, and by association, the Vita will as well. So.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the Vita just in the sense that it seems to be showing a little bit of the signs of life. It'll pass 10 million sold this year, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's not great, but
yeah.
And I'm wondering if they're going to double down on it, release a new one, do something, be like, we're not. Everyone thinks handheld gaming's dead. It's not. Like, will we see Vita 2 or something like that, or like a backwards compatible Vita that's a little stronger, makes it a little bit easier to develop for, even though it's already easy to develop for. It's not easy to bring these powerful games over. We saw that with Borderlands. Although it didn't stop Borderlands from selling.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that I agree. I think there's more in the works. Gamescom is this August. They will, they've traditionally talked a great deal about Vita. The first time anyone went hands-on with Vita was at Gamescom.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Edward, Minecraft Vita. That's all
And
you
don't
need.
forget, PlayStation Now is coming for Vita, so like that's going to be a huge thing too. So.
And don't forget, Edward, you don't love Vita.